Most investors waste hours analyzing deals. Me, I can do it on the back of a napkin and I can underwrite a $10 million deal in under 10 minutes and still sleep like a baby. The secret isn't speed, it's clarity. And in this video, I'll show you how I filter the junk from the gold faster than most people can even open Excel. Look, here's the first three things that I look at when I'm looking at these deals. What I look at is, what is the market that it's in? Is it a market that I'm interested in? If it's not, I don't look at it. Why? Shiny stuff distracts me, and I don't want to be chasing deals that aren't in my ideal market. And look, I've got 9 or 10 of them that I really like, but there's criteria for that. And that's the number one thing that instantly tells me if I'm even going to look at the deal and if we're going to move forward. The second thing that I look at is, what is the vintage? And what I mean by that is it a product type that I'm looking for? Then I look at the cap rate. Then I look at the finance rate. There are very simple things that I look at. If this is a deal that financing is at 5.25% on it, and they're wanting to trade this at a 5.25 cap, deal's dead. I'm not going to take a lot of time to underwrite a deal where the seller is not educated. Here's what I find. When you're dealing with experienced sellers and experienced buyers, they already know what their deal is worth, right? So they already know if they're overpriced in the market. They already know if they're asking for something that's not available. They know that getting into a bidding situation where it's going in reverse is not a good idea. The final thing that I look for when I'm underwriting is, what is the occupancy rate? What is the value that I can bring? And in that, what is the vehicle we're going to use? Is it a development deal? If it's a development deal, great, I can look at that. If it's a value add deal, I need to know what the thought process is behind the value add. What are we going to be doing? Is it poor management? Are they not getting their RUBS reimbursed? I mean, these are very, very quick things. So I've got to be able to create a story in a market that I like, with a deal that starts out making sense before I go spending a lot of time with it. Then I've got to understand the deal real quick. Then I can run the numbers on it, and I can tell you if that's something we're going to chase or not. And then from there, we start to dig and we start to get all the information that goes with that. But what most people do is they start digging into all the information. They want to see what the unit count is, as far as how many are empty, what do they have for 3 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms. They want to know all the stuff, and they start plugging it into all these models. They've got these big, huge calculators that crunch everything. And by the time they even really get started, they spent 3 or 4 hours plugging information into their preferred system. And while you spent all that time, you haven't really even looked at it, because you're looking at something in, I don't know, Chicago or Louisville or whatever. And maybe that's not even a market that you know. You have to have your market picked out. You have to know why you like it. You have to know what your options are for that. You have to know how your team's going to handle it. And when you know those kinds of things and you can put all this together, it will make it very, very quick for you to be able to understand how to be fast, efficient, with simple and smart steps. So once you've done that, and now you see that, hey, this is a 6 cap deal with 5.25 cap financing, I can look into that. This is a 90% occupied. It could use some juice on it. It needs some paint. It's a value add. Maybe it just needs better management. You can see the story. Yeah, I can manage that. And it's in the markets that I like already. Yeah, I can manage that. Once you've checked those boxes off, it makes it very easy to spend the time, because you're not spending hours on something that was never going to work anyway. Hey, if you want to underwrite like a pro, fast, simple, and smart, download my Passive Investor Playbook. It shows you how I filter deals, avoid disasters, and spot red flags before the spreadsheet even loads. Grab it right now. We only give away 50 copies, so be quick. Why do so many investors overanalyze themselves out of great deals? And how do you train your team to underwrite fast without missing risk? Well, passive investors, I can help you with that. Let's talk about smart due diligence. Here's some things I see a lot of people doing. They overanalyze themselves out of great deals. Why? Because they're unsure of what they're really chasing. They don't have the product dialed in as far as what is their buy box? What is their reason for doing it? Why do they want to be involved in real estate at all? And once they have their buy box figured out, they know where they're going, they know why they're going there, they've got a huge piece of the puzzle already figured out. I watch investors overanalyze, well, what's this market? I don't really know. But if you're concentrating on one, two, maybe even 8 or 9 markets, you have time to realize what those markets are doing and really get into the weeds on those markets. Again, if you're looking for 150 plus unit 1980 to 1990 vintage in these 10 cities, you already know where most of your deals are going to come from, and you know what the market is for them. And that's one of the biggest things that smart due diligence does. The other thing is training your team to underwrite without missing the risks involved, because they're focused on the same set of parameters. They're not looking at new builds when your product type is 80s vintage. They're not looking at industrial when your product type is 200 units or better of multifamily in the Sun Belt. They are very, very focused, and they know what to do. You don't want to have 75 inputs on your spreadsheet, because then it's too much for your team to look at, to evaluate, and to get the information correctly. And then where do they know where that's supposed to go? They don't understand what to put in there. Look, for passive investors who hate spreadsheets, how do you know when a deal's legit? It's because you have to understand the basics. Look, if somebody's telling you we're buying a 5 cap in today's market, that's really a red flag. Nobody is buying 5 caps in today's market. 5.5, 5.75, 6 on brand new. That's where that stuff is. But when you know your basics and you've got it figured out and you've underwritten the syndicator, then you've got the bricks in place to know where you're going. And that's where you can get into understanding, how are they doing this? What is their business model? What is their past track record? How have they performed for others? Are they still looking in markets that make sense for you, where you can just look at some headlines, you can do some parameter checks on what is their opinion of the market and what is available to you online. Look, speed isn't risky, ignorance is. And once you know what matters, 10 minutes is all you need. But here's the truth. None of this matters if you miss the biggest red flag that kills returns. Click here for 5 investor red flags I always watch for.